Hey, welcome back everyone. We are getting closer to the official release of the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series by, of course, Deborah Chow, Disney, and Lucasfilm, and exactly what they have in store for the return of both Hayden and Ewan in the show, and how we're about to get brand new footage in just a couple of days from now. So guys, I really do suggest that you keep your eyes open for that, because it's going to be a big reveal for the Kenobi series, along with a series of promo images by this week. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about George, Jon, and Dave that a lot of fans need to be aware of is that they are finding ways to create this ultimate balance between Star Wars Legends and the already existing canon material to really give us a balanced approach to the Star Wars universe, building it from the ground up, and really borrowing a lot of elements from the highlights of Star Wars Legends. And I say highlights because I'm talking about the Thrawn trilogy, Shadows of the Empire, the New Jedi Order, and everything around those lines that will become a part of this new universe overall. Now, given that they have over a dozen projects that they're working on simultaneously, I gotta give Jon and Dave a lot of credit for that, because that's a lot of things to work on. Now, when it all dwindles down to the character of Luke Skywalker, ever since his introduction into the mandoverse, back in 2020 with The Mandalorian Season 2's end, that's where a lot of fans really started to turn around and say, hey, let's give this new universe a shot. It looks like Jon and Dave have something on their, mind to do something very much incredible, and that's exactly what they are doing. So far, they've been doing a fantastic job. I will say, though, and admit that the Book of Boba Fett was a pretty significant speed bump. I mean, it wasn't too major. It had its, flaws. It had its problems in there, but I digress. With both Disney and Lucasfilm now focused on their new Star Wars projects, such as the new shows that are currently in the works, creators Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are actively involved in working on the Ahsoka Tano TV series. Now, it's described that currently one of the big plans by Jon Favreau for The Mandalorian Season 4, which is currently being worked on, has a lot to do with changing a big aspect of Luke Skywalker in the series that will involve one of the planned battle sequences, where it's described that one of the key scenes in The Mandalorian Season 4 that is already storyboarded is set to involve Luke Skywalker to fight alongside both Din Djarin and Ahsoka Tano against Thrawn's army. However, Luke Skywalker in this particular scene is said to be wearing ancient Jedi armor that dates back before the events of the High Republic, dating back at least 500 plus years. Now, the new armor that Luke Skywalker is set to use against Thrawn's army is set to mimic that of a knight's from the medieval times, almost near similar to Captain Phasma's suit design from the sequel trilogy movies. Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, we actually touched on this lightly a couple of months ago, actually almost a year ago at this point, of how Jon Favreau was going to give Luke Skywalker a set of armor that dated back to the High Republic era. It turns out it's dating back before the events of the High Republic, given that there have been a lot of changes with the High Republic timeline and what Jon and Dave are willing and not willing to do with High Republic references. So that's smart on them. Since they aren't really all that much in support of the High Republic, they are making this set of armor to date back before that era, taking place in between the Old Republic and the High one. So that's a very interesting thing to kind of think about, is that yes, this armor has existed for 500 plus years. It really makes you wonder exactly whose armor it was. Did it belong to somebody significant during that time when the Jedi Order was a thing? We're not quite sure. Now, however, though Favreau wanted to give Luke a very unexpected change in the series, it's not going to be for the majority of the 4th season and is only meant for this intense battle against Thrawn and his forces. There is described to be a deep reason as to why Luke wears the Jedi armor that he discovered with Lor San Tekka, and that is, of course, that it has to do with some sort of Jedi tradition that involves a battle, of course, to wear such armor in a given situation or circumstance. Now, the battle between Din Djarin, Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, going up against Thrawn's forces is said to be a massive fight, and will take roughly 2 months to film, essentially, once they plan to begin filming the scene by the spring of next year. So keep in mind is that Mandalorian Season 4, it's not going to begin filming until 2023 sometime. They are still working on the storyboards, all of which are going to be finalized into the script as we know it, and moving on from that point. That's a very interesting way to go about doing things, because they are already working on the Ahsoka Tano series as we speak. They're very busy with other TV shows as well. So they're really trying to figure out exactly, what's going to come out before or after other shows. That's another thing that they do have to figure out with the mandoverse at large, right? Now, moving on from that, for this scene, Lucasfilm was already planning to use deepfake version of Luke Skywalker's face alongside with the return of Mark Hamill to do some of the voiceover work on certain angles where his voice will be modified to sound younger. This is a big work in progress by Favreau in order to give fans a very different take on Luke Skywalker and how he handles his discovered Jedi lore. That's another thing to really think about, is that they are going to be bringing back Mark Hamill this time around to do the voiceover work in certain circumstances to kind of lend his voice as Luke Skywalker, where his voice is going to be modified as opposed to in the Book of Boba Fett. In case you guys did not know, that was actually I believe they called it a synthesizer, or something around those lines, where they modified, or it's AI voice essentially. They can punch in words and actually emulate Mark Hamill's young voice. That was all robotic. That was all artificial voiceover work. That wasn't really by anybody. And that was a very, impressive technology. I mean, I will admit, very impressive technology for the Book of Boba Fett, but there were times, I will admit, where the voice sounded a little off and a little too monotone, or I'm not really quite sure how to describe it. Just felt a little strange to me at times, almost like a video game type of voiceover, work in an actual live action TV show. That's how it came off to me at times, not all the time. So, moving before all of this, Luke is set to use his traditional lightsaber once again in the scene, and that in the storyboards there is even a moment in which Din Djarin makes some kind of joke to Luke asking if that's Mandalorian armor, to where Luke replies, "No, Jedi," just before the fight begins. The armor for Luke is designed and taken from some of George Lucas's original concepts from the prequel trilogy and some of the characters that never made it to the screen that held very similar armor. The armor that Luke sports in the scene also holds a big red Jedi Order symbol on the chest of some kind. The armor for Luke, however, has no helmet unlike a Mandalorian's armor, and will be something unique and able to take tons of blaster fire against Thrawn's forces. Filoni is said to also be involved in the battle sequence once it begins filming, and of course once they begin writing the script for The Mandalorian Season 4. Now that's the overall structure right now, is that all the storyboards that they are working on for Mando Season 4 is going to be finalized for the script. They want to make sure that all of that is going to be implemented into the story without a lot of wasted storyboards. And that's a lot of things to consider, is that Jon and Dave are trying to make these stories as smooth and pretty much, having no bumps in the road as possible. They want to make sure that they can get these things out on time without delaying anything. Unlike the Acolyte series, which, by the way, we talked about this, got delayed when it came to the production. We'll talk about that maybe even a little bit later. But obviously, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know what she's doing with Star Wars, and she doesn't know what she's doing with Leslie Headland as a writer. So, it's not a big surprise that the Acolyte show is having a lot of setbacks after setbacks multiple times, and how Bob Chapek is getting very frustrated over that. So overall, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.